Good morning. Welcome to Fight Nomad podcast number 8. Now, it has been a year and 8 months since I filmed my last podcast episode, and the last podcast episode I was actually in Bali, and here I am in Bali again, but now I have permanently moved here. And between that time and this time, there has a lot that has happened, and I think just talking about it, for one, it makes you get to know me a little bit better, but I also think lessons I've learned in the past 1 year, 8 months are probably helpful for some people listening. And what better way to impart lessons than through your own mistakes and telling people about them. So please enjoy. It is currently 9 a.m. I am living in this beautiful villa. If you're watching on the YouTube video, I'll show some B footage. So who am I now? What has happened since we last connected online? I think the biggest life changes right now is I've been dating this amazing man named Tom for the past 6 months. And for me, this is quite a big deal because you probably don't know this about my story, but I have a history of pretty unhealthy relationships. And actually another big change the past 2 years, because this is not something I talked about ever in any of my previous episodes, is that I was finally forced to go to therapy when I had a massive mental breakdown last year. And that's when the therapist really honed in on how little self-worth that I had. I've always been quite hard on myself my whole life. So anyways, I'm not going to go too much into that because I think talking about mental health is worth a whole other YouTube video. So yeah, circling back, I'm dating this amazing man, Tom. He's very kind, very respectful, and I'm very, very grateful to be in a healthy relationship. I think I'm in the happiest era of my life right now. And I think the reason why, we have the cleaner behind us. One sec. Also, I think another big update, I think that will potentially have a big impact on my decisions moving forward, is I recently just hired a business coach after not having a business coach for years. And the reason why I hired one is because although my current agency, my social media management agency, is going well, I have been capped at a certain income for the past 7 years, actually. And I finally come to the conclusion that I only know what I know, and it's taken me so far, but at the end of the day, I don't know what I don't know. It's just like building a house. You can just build it from scratch without any knowledge, or you can get an architect or an engineer who knows how to build it and help guide you so that you don't make some obvious mistakes, or just point out things that you wouldn't even think about. Tom, who has been in the in the internet entrepreneurship, I guess, how would you call it, location independent entrepreneurship space for over 10 years. He recommended me this very reputable business coach, and we actually hired the business coach together. I'm currently making my way through the curriculum, and I love it. And I think it's definitely going to impact how I move forward in the internet entrepreneurship space. Other updates is that I've basically streamlined my social media management agency, where it's we're delivering good results for our clients. Sorry, I keep on looking out from the distance because I don't have a habit of looking at the camera. Even when I talk to people as well, I tend to not look at them in the eyes, but I think maybe that's a habit I need to fix. With regards to my social media management agency, it's been pretty much on autopilot for at least the past 2 years at least, because I hired team members a couple years ago. I hired my first team member, Lance, and since then I've learned how to create systems and build processes, and our longest client has been with us for more than 5 years, and I think our second longest client at least 4 years. Again, I have to do the math, so that's a pretty cool accomplishment now. I think I have, in a certain way, I have figured out how to achieve time freedom while also earning an income, while also not having to work anymore. But the reason why I hired a business coach is because I have been stagnating at a certain income level, and I'm just curious about how to improve myself, how to go to the next level. And I do know that this jump, it also requires more inner work as well. In summary, right now, I am in a very good area of my life. But the funny thing is that this really probably the happiest era of my life was also preceded by the worst time of my life, which is, I think, also important to talk about, because I think that happiness and gratitude that I feel now, I can only experience it because of the shit that I went through. So let's talk about that some more. The dark stuff. So let's rewind to a year and a half ago. On the outside, it looks like my life is going very well. I'm like traveling all over the world, traveling to different countries, like fought in Bali. Then I like hired a videographer to like follow me around all around Thailand. We did all these gym tours, and then we ended up in one championship, and one championship like, paid me to be like a, kind of like promote their fights, and we're going to their fights in Singapore. And on the outside, it looks like everything is going well. Like, all the biggest brands in the martial arts niche, I'm starting to work with them. But inside, I was falling apart. I was starting to experience bouts of depression and anxiety. And in hindsight, what I realized was happening was that I was running away from parts of myself. So basically, I had this mental breakdown. And I think what led to the mental breakdown was because I had believed for the longest time that the solution to mental health was like outer things. So I thought, hey, like, you will never get depressed if you have a healthy lifestyle, if you eat healthy, if you are like, do physical activity. So for me, it was like Muay Thai. If you have a community of healthy people that inspire you to be better, if you like have good friends and you open up to them. So I just assumed that that was the solution to like mental health, because I have struggled with like mental health, specifically depression, since I was 17 years old when my parents divorced. And so I think I was naive. I just thought that was the solution. And then I started having like experiencing like depressive episodes again. I started getting panic attacks. I started like feeling it. Now I realize there's a word for it. It's called dissociating, where it's just like I would just sit and all of a sudden just, it's like sit in a chair and I'd be like, all my motivation would be gone. I'd be like, I just don't know what to do with myself. And there was this like sense of like there'd be like a barrier between me and other people. It's just like I didn't know how to interact with people all of a sudden. And then that developed like, it made me start to feel massive social anxiety, because I was just like, what is going on? I'm probably being so weird right now. And then I was just so stuck in my head. And if I can make an analogy, it's almost like a washing machine, just like churning over and over. And again, I don't want to go too much in depth with it, because I do want to just make a whole YouTube video about mental health. But what had happened, like in hindsight, is that I think I hadn't been doing the inner work. Like I didn't even know what the concept of inner work was. And basically there were certain subconscious belief systems that were fueling everything that I did. Like I came to Thailand when I was 20 years old. My subconscious desire was to prove myself to my family, to prove that I was good enough, to prove that, I was going to be a successful entrepreneur. And, once I was a millionaire, then I could come back to them and they would love me. It was all just like these stories that were in my subconscious that when you say it out loud, it sounds very stupid. But I think, again, growing up in a family where both my parents were high achievers, I wasn't aware to what extent that my whole household placed our self-worth on achieving. And it was a very unhealthy, because there was very little self-love. My mom now is in a very healthy place. I hope my dad is. And for me, I'm currently in this journey right now of not basing my self-worth based off of my accomplishments. Why I am talking about this now is because, I think it's good to talk about these things, because at the end of the day, even though, at least for me, when I was going through my mental struggles, I thought I was the only one who was going through it, I think it's quite humanizing to talk about it and show that, like if you're watching, you're not the only one who struggles with mental health. And I didn't really intend this to be like a whole video about mental health, but I just kind of wanted this to be a life update of just like what's been going on for the past 2 years. But I think like the biggest pivot right now is like I'm in a healthy relationship. We're living in this like fabulous epic villa. I'm about to like grow my business, and it like physically I'm doing very well. I feel very proud of myself right now. Again, it's still a journey. There's still so many things to work on, but I do hope to be able to share it more with you, and so that other people who are on a similar journey, you can feel that you're not alone. Like the questions that I'm grappling with, I'm sure other people are grappling with them as well. And so I guess like the biggest lessons for me that I took away from the past 2 years is like how important it is to do the inner work. For the longest time, I thought that therapy was basically just going to a person and then talking to them about like everything that sucks in your life. And then the therapist being like, yeah, that sucks. And then I just thought it was just like a whole like kind of like pity session where you're just supposed to feel sorry for yourself. But now I have a new definition for therapy, and it is about having, and again, you have to have like a good therapist, just like it's like important to have a good personal trainer. Like if you have someone who is not good, then they're actually going to do more damage than good. But I see the purpose of a therapist is to identify what belief systems are driving me and that are potentially causing me to sabotage myself, to hurt myself. So for example, like the reason why I work with a therapist like once every 2 weeks, maybe like if I'm doing well, it'll be once a month, but I still want to constantly be doing this work. I want to do more inner work stuff. I want to do shadow work, is because at the end of the day, you are driven by your subconscious belief systems. And if you are not aware of it, it can be like taking you in the wrong direction. And I don't want to be so unaware of myself that I have to go through an entire mental breakdown to realize that I'm on the wrong path and that something is wrong. I think like self-awareness and knowing kind of like what your intuition is telling you is so important, being so in tune with yourself, because I think like the reason why I had the massive mental breakdown last year was also because I was out of tune with myself. I didn't know what was going on. I was running away from a lot of things. I was numbing things out. For me, my vices are like food and like consuming content. So I would numb myself with that. I would ignore myself. And I think like healthier practices these days are to have a journaling practice, to have conversations with yourself and not escape yourself. So anyways, I think I have ranted enough. This is enough, but for one podcast episode. And again, this has nothing to do with martial arts. I didn't even talk about business that much. So I don't know. This is just something that's really on my heart that I want to talk about, and maybe it will resonate with people or maybe nobody will care, but I just felt like turning on the camera and talking about this. So I'll talk to you in the next episode. Mwah.